was getting little lesions on my ears. Again, my case isn't as bad, except for the chronic fatigue, which a lot of people say is how it starts for them.
Another troubling symptom, hair loss. Annette Riobia of Harbor City shows us why she has to wear a wig. She often gets lesions on her scalp.
They don't actually ever heal. They just end up leaving, like, strange-looking scars.
On top of having to live with this devastating disease, these people have had to deal with a lack of support from the medical community. Some have been diagnosed with scabies, a contagious skin disease caused by a mite. Or they're told they're delusional and that their ailments are from self-mutilation.
Went to the dermatologist first, and he basically said that I was delusional.
I've had everything from nerves to drug addiction to delusional parasitosis is the biggest common diagnosis.
The disease does seem to cause a brain fog or lack of clarity. However, this Florida woman wanted to prove to doctors that it wasn't all in her mind, so she saved the fibers that were growing out of her body.
This has absolutely brought me to my knees.
Some doctors even admit to a lack of acknowledgement of the illness.
There are a lot of us who feel like if it doesn't exist in my medical book, it really doesn't exist anywhere.
Believe me, if I just randomly saw one of these patients come into my office, I would think they were crazy too.
Nurse practitioner Ginger Sabley treats Morgellons patients from all over the country at her San Francisco Medical Center.
But after you've heard the story of over 100, and they're all down to the most minute detail, saying the exact same thing, well, that becomes quite impressive.
As you can imagine, living with such an illness can cause emotional distress. Lisa Wilson's son, Trevor, developed the disease just over a year ago.
It looked like a piece of spaghetti. It was about 8 to a quarter inch long. It was sticking out of his chest. This is when he was having a very bad attack. And I tried to pull it as hard as I could out, and I could not pull it out.
Trevor tried several medications, antibiotics, antiparasitics, and painkillers. But when things just became too much to bear, he took his own life.
I knew it was going to kill himself, and there was nothing I could do to stop.
Other Morgellons patients have felt this same type of deep depression. The children have their own struggles.
I used to have the whole softball team come and sleep over, and no one wants to come over anymore.
Researchers at Oklahoma State University Center for Health Sciences have been testing scabs and fibers from patients.
We don't know what causes it. We don't know if it's an environmental factor, if there are bacteria involved, if there are parasites or worms or viruses.
Meantime, sufferers are praying someone can unlock this medical mystery and release them from this living hell.
Just one big Twilight Zone episode that hopefully we'll get an end to here soon.
Well, nurse practitioner Sabley says that she's found some success by giving her patients a combination of antifungals, antibiotics, and antiparasitics. Now, if you'd like some more information about Morgellons disease, you can go to our website at CBS.
Fortunately, we have some 4 years of intense study into the problem of chemtrails, and the following facts are not disputed. For reasons that will shortly become apparent, given the data collected, we know the following. Fact: chemtrails are loaded with pathogens deadly to the human organism. Fact: chemtrails are definitely aimed at the major population centers, though even the backcountry of America, Australia, and other areas of Europe receive chemtrails. Certainly not with the intensity and frequency of, say, Los Angeles or New York. Fact: much of the spraying occurs at night. Fact: chemtrails contain various heavy metals such as titanium, aluminum, barium salts, and other toxic metals. Fact: most of the spraying is carried out by NATO air forces in their respective countries.
Kind of bluish.
It's kind of a semicircle, and the top is kind of reddish.
It sounds like something from the X-Files.
The very first one was kind of a creamy white.
People claim they have strings, not hairs, but strings growing out of their skin.
It's all a system. They're all connected together.
They're just these awful little black things that intertwine.
There is this black spot back here.
Doctors and nurses can't believe what they're seeing.
Let me look at that one first.
They're blue, they're red, they sometimes move, which is really bizarre.
This didn't seem like anything I had ever seen that was coming out of a human body.
I mean, this is a mystery. It really is.
The mystery starts here in West Texas.
Good boy. Put your nose in there.
Rancher Carol Arledge was one of the first people to see white fibers and black specks popping out of her skin. She went to her dermatologist.
She said, I can't believe you did this to yourself. And I was like, I didn't. And I said, well, do you want me to come back if it doesn't get better? She said, no. If it doesn't get better, you need to find a psychiatrist.
So did Carol Arledge do this to herself? She says no.
You still got a little bit of active lesions there.
And did Marnie Winky scratch these sores into her own face? She also says no. Carol, Marnie, and thousands of others from various parts of the country complain of similar ailments. They say it feels like something's crawling beneath their skin and that they're sick and exhausted. The patients call it Morgellons disease. On websites, people post pictures they say prove it's a real illness. Now, even the Centers for Disease Control is looking into it.
See, these lesions on your head, just so I can clarify this.
Nurse practitioner Ginger Savely was one of the first people to treat Morgellons patients.
That's not from you gouging or scratching.
No. You know that all of this sounds kind of crazy.
Yes, but I know what I see with my own eyes.
She works with Dr. Raphael Stricker, who says it reminds him of another disease he treated as a young physician.
I was in New York at the beginning of the AIDS epidemic when we started seeing all these gay men and drug users with these weird infections, and nobody had a clue what it was.
The mystery of Morgellons soon caught the attention of a Tulsa, Oklahoma researcher, Dr. Randy Wymore. His search began here.
Here's a lovely red.
He wondered, could the fibers in the skin simply have rubbed off of people's clothing?
Here's a nice blue material that probably will have some loose fibers that can be pulled off with Scotch tape.
When you took all of these clothing fibers and put them underneath the microscope, did it look like the fibers underneath the skin of the Morgellons patients?
No, not at all. Totally different.
Satisfied the fibers weren't textiles, Dr. Wymore consulted with colleagues at Oklahoma State University.
I didn't know what to think at first. I, of course, did a little research.
I will admit that at first I was a little skeptical.
Doctors Rhonda Casey and Steve Eddy agreed to see Morgellons patients.
That is definitely not a hair, the blue thing there. I'm going to get that. I would like forceps and a slide.
We were there one day when they brought in 4 patients,
I'm going to see if I can get the little purple looking thing.
extracted fibers from under their skin,
Oh, I got it.
made slides, and looked at them under a microscope.
Oh, it's red.
Actually, it's red and blue.
And this is what they saw. Black, red, and blue fibers lurking under the skin. Now they've seen about 25 patients, and the OSU doctors are convinced Morgellons is real. But the medical establishment says they are wrong.
Morgellons is not real.
Dr. Noah Scheinfeld is assistant professor of dermatology at Columbia University.
So this is all in their heads.
It's all in their heads. This is somebody who's picking at themselves, and people can pick at themselves for all kinds of reasons.
But how does he explain the fibers? Dr. Scheinfeld says once the patients create a sore, they shove fibers into it.
There was absolutely nothing on the surface there.
But the OSU doctors say that's impossible. They say they found most of the fibers away from the sores, under unbroken, smooth skin. Still, no matter who you believe, there was one question no one here could answer for us.
You've looked at these fibers under the microscope. What do you think they are?
Oh, I have absolutely no clue.
But Dr. Vitaly Satovsky thinks he might know.
We take this piece of skin and then we extract genes from them.
This biologist at SUNY Stony Brook says he found a gene that only exists in plants inside the skin of the Morgellons patients. Many of the people who claim to have Morgellons have spent time working in the soil.
Do you think in a couple of years you might be eating your words? Maybe research will show you're wrong?
In this case, I don't think so.
I would challenge any of these physicians who think that we are just feeding into the delusions to come and examine a group of these patients and see what I've seen.
Delusion or disease? The threads of this argument continue on. Elizabeth Cohen, CNN, Tulsa, Oklahoma.